Okay.
And a very good Friday morning, afternoon, evening, whatever the hell it is, everyone. Joe Benigno back with you again, the Yoda Pain Podcast. A lot of pain. It is Friday the 13th, as a matter of fact. How about that? June 13th, 2025. The Joe Benigno the Pain Podcast brought to you by the Hackensack Brewing Company, by Anita Discount Tire, and of course, by Manscaped. It is such a pain in the ass doing this. There is never a time when we try to do this podcast when it gets off just like boom.
Is it okay now?
Without a glitch. Yeah, it's going. Without a glitch. It would seem to be fine. Without a glitch. It never works. It never happens. It's unbelievable. What a freaking disaster. Thank God for my wife and her demeanor that she always keeps that even keel and doesn't get upset about anything. And I'm very fortunate about that she's like that. But it is
Right.
it is what it is. Now, we'll start with this. If you're an old man like me who grew up and is a big music guy that I am, and grew up in the 60s with all the great music in the 60s, we lost two of the icons of rock music this past week, both at the age of 82. Sylvester Stewart, Sly Stone, Sly and the Family Stone, and of course the legendary one of the all-time greats, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. As I said, both of them 82 years old. Very tough week for that. Did a did a little musical interlude on both Sly and Brian the last couple days. Very tough to see them go. It's really unbelievable when you get to be the age that I am, and you're watching all these great rock icons pass away. It's really crazy. But when I'm almost 72 years old, what do you expect? I mean, it's unreal. I can't tell you and I love Sly Stone. So many great songs. Hot Fun in the Summertime, Family Affair, Everybody is a Star, Dance to the Music, Everyday People. Thank you for letting me be myself again. I mean, we can go on and on with all the great, I Want to Take You Higher, all the great songs by Sylvester Stewart, which was his real name, Sly Stone. Had a lot of issues, was homeless for a long time, was living out of a camper, I believe, for a long time in his life, and finally passed away. Complications from COPD and other illnesses. Really, they were the original funk band. You talk about Funkadelic. They were the original. All the way back in the late '60s. Really, really one of the greats. Really, absolutely loved them. Sly and the Family Stone. Rest in peace, Sylvester Stewart, Sly Stone, 82 years old. And then, of course, Brian Wilson. Look, you know how many hours I spent downstairs when I was a kid in my grandmother's basement after my father passed away? We lived with my grandparents. When I was 13, 14, 15 years old, still in high school, and just, would set up all these fake microphones, right? I had like a guitar and all that I could play, but I had all this guitar and all this. My cousin and I, we would be everybody. We'd be everybody from the Beatles to the Stones to the Doors and the Beach Boys. And we did a lot of Beach Boys. We'd take turns being Brian Wilson and Mike Love, being Dennis Wilson and Carl Wilson. I mean, we would, this is what we did. I'd be for hours doing the Beach Boys, on and on and on. Loved them. One of my all-time favorite groups. Did a long musical interlude yesterday, about 12, 13 songs. And not the ones that everybody knows, but obviously we all know Good Vibrations and I Get Around and Help Me Rhonda and California Girls and Fun, Fun, Fun. I mean, we go on and on with all the big hits they had. And of course, the legendary Pet Sounds album. It's funny. A little story about the Pet Sounds album. So, came out in 1966. My father's still alive. I'm a spry 12, 13-year-old. And we are down the Jersey Shore because we had a place down the Jersey Shore back then in Seaside Park. And we're on a boardwalk in Seaside Heights. And they had one of these, game stands, where you played a wheel, right? And what you won was albums, right? So they had all these, I'll never forget this, all these albums, right? And I'm playing a wheel with my father, and my father hits, okay? My father would go through like forever until he finally hit, which wasn't exactly a good thing, but nevertheless, he would. And we finally hit, and I got to pick two albums. And I picked the first album I actually picked was Tom Jones, his original, his first album without It's Not Unusual on it and all. I took that. And the other one was the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. Now, at that time, I thought that the Pet Sounds album was like a Beach Boys' greatest hits album. I didn't realize what it was. So I got the album. And of course, it turns out to be one of the great albums of all time. It certainly was not a greatest hits album, although there's, big hits on it. Wouldn't It Be Nice? Sloop John B. God Only Knows. They're all on that album. But they're not even, to me, not even the best songs on that album. And that turned out to be one of the great albums in history, certainly a desert island album. If you're going to go on a desert island, what albums would you take and all of that? And turned out to be Brian Wilson's masterpiece. So, very, very sad to hear it. And they had he had a really tough time. I mean, he was, I think he was in bed for like a couple years, he wasn't in control of his own situation and all of that, and it's funny that he outlived his two brothers. I mean, Brian had all these problems. Dennis Wilson died pretty young. He drowned in the Pacific Ocean. I think he was all drugged up when he did because he had issues like that. And then Carl Wilson died later on of a heart attack. And Brian was the guy that survived the longest, in spite of all his issues. And again, he's one of the iconic great ones of all time. When you look back at the great, guys that really made rock what it was, you want to look at, and they did so, they certainly were very influenced by Chuck Berry. My wife always gets upset because she's either the guitar riffs that they kind of ripped off from Chuck Berry, and Chuck had some comments about him too, but whatever. But, you can go back all the way to Chuck Berry, but all the iconic guys, the Beatles, McCartney and Lennon and Jagger and Richards and, Jim Morrison and, of course, Bob Dylan. And, I put the Beach Boys right up there with them. Led Zeppelin, they're right up there with those guys. You can make a case the greatest rock band in the history of the United States is the Beach Boys. You can make a case. I guess you could talk about the Eagles, as well. There's probably a couple others. But, probably them. And millions of albums and so many great songs, and we could go on and on. But very depressing if you are a music guy like me. In the same week, we lose Sly Stone and Brian Wilson, both at the age of 82. So, rest in peace, and their music will live on forever. And there's no doubt about it. And I'll be playing Sly's songs and Brian's songs for the as long as I live. There's no question about it. All right, Benigno, the Ode of Pain podcast. Let's get to the sports. Another sad thing today is the trading of one of my all-time favorite Rangers, Chris Kreider. He gets traded to the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. The good thing, we knew he was going to get dealt. We know that, Chris Drury is basically cleaning house. Nobody is safe. I don't think there's anybody safe. Maybe it's just Starkin. Outside of him, I don't know if there's anybody safe on this team, whether it's Zibanejad or Lafreniere or Keandre Miller or even Adam Fox. I don't know. I really don't. But Kreider was an all-time great Ranger. I'm glad they traded him to Anaheim so we don't have to deal with him in the Eastern Conference, and you only see the Anaheim Ducks twice a year and only one time at the Garden. And I hope when he does come back to play against the Rangers that they do something for him because he's an all-time great. He's 13 years with this team. He's third all-time in the team history in goals scored, only behind Gilbert and Rattel. He's the all-time Ranger leader in goals scored in the playoffs. He's got 48 playoff goals. He's tied for the most power play goals in the history of the franchise with Camille Henry. I mean, we could go on and on with this guy. One of the best ever with the shorthanded goals. One of the great special teams guys there's ever been, as far as on the power play and on the penalty kill. I hopefully one day we'll see Kreider's number 20 go up into the rafters, and we'll all remember really the last great moment of his career, that third period natural hat trick against the Hurricanes last year in the conference semifinals in Game 6 that propelled the Rangers into the conference finals, where they eventually lost to the Florida Panthers. Kreider's one of the all-time greats. The Rangers, I talk about the Mets all the time. How the Mets have gotten rid of so many of their great players over the years. Well, the Rangers too, right? They traded John Rattel. They traded Brad Park. By the way, his number should be up in the rafters as well, number 2. The 2 number 2s with Leach. They traded Brad Park. They traded Eddie Giacomin, right? They let Messier walk away. I'll never forget Dave Checketts with that terrible comment, how long do I have to pay for the Stanley Cup? Let Messier walk away. Let Leach finish his career with the Toronto freaking Maple Leafs. You know, even Lundqvist, the only reason Lundqvist played his whole career for the Rangers is because he actually wound up signed with the Washington Capitals and then got sick, had that issue with his heart, and couldn't play anymore. And that's the only reason why he played his whole career with the Rangers. So the Rangers have done this forever. And like I said, you're going to see more guys get dealt before all is said and done. And I'm going to miss Chris Kreider. God bless him. Did a lot of winning with this guy. How many times were they in the conference finals with him? How many big playoff wins did they have? They went to the finals as well. You know, I don't know what else to say. One of the great all-time Rangers, and he will be missed. And I wish him good luck in Anaheim. I'll tell you one thing. How upset, if you are a fan right now, and I really haven't paid a lot of attention to the Stanley Cup Finals because with the Rangers not there, I could really care less, to be honest about it. And Florida's probably going to win again. What are they up 2-1 on Edmonton right now? Whatever it is. But you see Brad Marchand, who got traded at the trade deadline, one of the all-time great Boston Bruins, was there forever, traded at the trade deadline to Florida, and now he's ripping it up. He's on his way to maybe the Conn Smythe Trophy. If I am a Boston Bruin fan, are you happy about that? I wouldn't be happy about it, to see one of my all-time guys lighting it up for some other team on his way to winning a Stanley Cup with the team that's not mine. Oh, man, I'm not even a Bruin fan, and it bothers me. So, you know, let's hope I don't see anything like that with Kreider. I don't think Anaheim's on his way to the Stanley Cup Finals anytime soon. But like I said, at least he's way, way away from anywhere in the Eastern Conference. I'm sure he wouldn't have won it. I'm sure Kreider would have never approved the trade to the Devils or the Islanders or the Flyers or Pittsburgh or any of those teams in the division. I doubt that was ever going to happen. So, but God bless him. We'll miss you, Chris. I got the Kreider jersey. Let's hope they don't give number 20 out to anybody. And someday, put number 20 up in the rafters where it belongs. He's an all-time great Ranger. God bless Chris Kreider. All right. Benigno, the Oda Payne podcast. Now, how about this? How about this Knicks coaching search BS? What a mistake they made getting rid of Thibodeau. You know what kills me about this, right? So the Knicks get as farther than they have in 25 years, right? You know Brunson didn't want to see him go. You know Josh Hart didn't want to see him go. And you know what kind of ticks me off a little bit is that he was badmouthed by 2 guys that weren't even on a team last year, right? By Bridges and Towns. And I know that Towns, was with him in Minnesota and all that. I don't know, maybe his relationship wasn't so great there either. But they fired Thibodeau, the best coach they've had since Jeff Van Gundy in 25 freaking years, one of the best coaches they ever had, which is always a situation with the Knicks, and I'm going to document that too in a second. But you got no plan B. What the hell was Leon Rose and Jim Dolan's plan B? And I put this all on Dolan, by the way. What the hell was the plan B for the Knicks? Was the plan B, we're going to get Jason Kidd from Dallas? Well, no, you're not, because they're not allowing Kidd out of his contract. They're going to get this guy, Udoka, whatever his name is, from Houston? Well, they're not letting him out of his contract. Danny Hurley doesn't want the job. I don't blame him. Jay Wright doesn't want the job. I don't blame him. Why would you want to come into the NBA? What do you want to come into this nonsense for, right? So who's going to be the coach of the team? Tell me who it's going to be. Who is it? Some third-rate coach? They're going to bring in Mike Brown, the old Cavalier coach. He's going to be the coach of the Knicks? That's an upgrade from Thibodeau? Come on. You got to be kidding me. So who's the coach? Basically, the Knicks front office gets rid of the best coach they've had in 25 freaking years, okay? Right? For no reason, as far as I'm concerned. No reason at all. And they got no plan. What's their plan? Is it going to steal some coach that's under contract to somebody else now? Doesn't look like that's happening. Unbelievable. Really, you can't say enough. And this is why this franchise has not won an NBA title since 1973. Let's be honest. This is the total malfunction of how this franchise has been run. No matter who the owners are, going back to the Gulf and Western days. Think about all the big coaches the Knicks have had over the years that wound up leaving the team very unceremoniously. Go all the way back to Rick Pitino, right? When he was the head coach of his team in the 87, 88, and 88, 89 seasons. He was there for 2 years. He took the Knicks to the playoffs 2 years in a row. They won the then Atlantic Division in his second year in 88, 89. They win a playoff series against Philadelphia, that sweep, a 3-game sweep when Ewing, Mark Jackson, and Charles Oakley had the broom out in Philly. That was brutal, but whatever. They win that series, and then they lose in the second round, the first of the losses to Michael Jordan all the way back in 89, right? They lose in 6 to the Bulls that year, and then Pitino has a pissy fight with the GM Al Bianchi. Bianchi wins, and Pitino leaves, right, after 2 years. Pitino, gone. And we all know what kind of, great coach he's turned out to be, certainly on the college level. And he had no interest in taking a Knick job now. Of course, with St. John's, he's 72 years old. Why the hell would he want it? Right? So they had Rick Pitino, they let him go. Pat Riley comes here, right? One of the great coaches of all time. 5-time world champions, right? All those 4 titles with the Showtime Lakers. He wins later on in Miami. They bring in Pat Riley, immediately turns it around, right? His first year, they win 51 games. They win a playoff series, right? They knock off the Pistons in the first round of the playoffs. And then they have that blood and guts 7-game series with the, the team that is now the world champion Chicago Bulls. They take them to 7 before losing game 7 in Chicago, right? The second year, he wins 60 games. They go 60-22, right? They win the division. And, of course, we all know what happened in the conference finals with the Charles Smith Memorial. They did make that ill-fated Mark Jackson trade, which, was how they got Charles Smith here, but whatever. The next year, they actually get to the NBA Finals, and they lose to Houston in 7. And then the next year is the Indiana series, the finger roll, the first game, blowing the 7-point lead with 18 seconds left and all of that. And then Riley leaves. Riley gets in, again, he gets into a power struggle with Dave Checketts. Dave Checketts winds up winning the power struggle. Riley faxes his resignation in. He goes to Miami, and the rest is history. Since he's been in Miami, they've won 3 championships, right? Eric Spoelstra is now the coach. They're always good. He winds up with LeBron and all of that, right? Pat Riley, Knicks let him go. Then we wind up with Jeff Van Gundy, right? And we have a lot of success with him. Get to the finals in 99. Conference finals in 2000, right? They make the playoffs again in the 01 season and eventually losing the first round to Toronto and all of that. And then, a month into the next year, Van Gundy can't take Dolan anymore, and he leaves. And then we go through all these crap coaches, right? Don Chaney, Lenny Wilkens. Not that they were big. Look, Lenny Wilkens was a championship with the Seattle Sonics, but, he wasn't winning here. And we have the Isaiah Thomas disaster. We had Mike D'Antoni. We had Jeff Hornacek. The Larry Brown thing that lasted like 20 minutes. What a disaster that turns out to be, right? D'Antoni, Hornacek, right? You go right on down the line. Derek Fisher, David Fizdale. At least we have Mike Woodson, who was actually pretty good for a couple of years, right? With Carmelo, the 54-win season and all of that. And then, of course, Phil Jackson comes in, who really had no interest whatsoever in doing anything with the Knicks. He wanted to stay in L.A. All he wanted to do was get paid, right? Right? That's all he really wanted to do. He dumps Woodson, and then we have that disaster with Fisher, with Fizdale, with Hornacek, all of that crap. We finally get a regime in here that knows what it's doing with Leon Rose and Worldwide West, right? Finally, okay? They bring in Thibodeau. He makes the playoffs 4 of the 5 years he's here. He wins, 4 playoff series. He gets them farther than they've been in 25 years to the conference finals. They win back-to-back 50-win seasons, and they dump him. And you want to know why the Knicks don't ever freaking win, okay? And now they're going to bring in some third-rate crap coach, right? Some guy that is not even close to being as good as Thibodeau is going to be. And he's going to take the job because I got to take the job. And the pressure is going to be immense on him because there's only one way to go now for the Knicks. What a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And I blame Dolan. I totally blame Jim Dolan. It's on him. If you think Dolan isn't making the final say here, you're out of your mind. Give me a break. Same old with the freaking Knicks. Unbelievable. Can't wait to see who the next head coach is going to be. Unbelievable. I just, typical Knicks. And I hope the Indiana Pacers win it all. I really do. Let them win. Why not? All right. Let me have a little water here. I'm just, you're a Knicks fan. You got to be disgusted. You really do. This is so typical of this French. And one more thing with that. No way do I want Kevin Durant. I wouldn't trade an uninflated basketball for Kevin Durant. Screw him. Stay in Phoenix. Go somewhere. I don't know. Go to Hawaii or something, okay? Stay away from my team, all right? I want no part of a 36-year-old Kevin freaking Durant, okay? Please. Like I said, I wouldn't give up an uninflated basketball for this guy. So let's hope that does not happen. Let's hope. And that would be very typical Knicks if it did, I have to say. All right, let me down my water. Unbelievable. It's really painful. All right, the sponsors, we'll let you know probably sometime at the end of July for the next live podcast at the Hackensack Brewing Company. We'll keep you informed. Now, if you need work done on your car, go see Johnny, go see Ari over at the Need a Discount Tire. They'll take care of you. You need tires, you need your car inspected, whatever you need, whatever your automotive needs are. Rivervale, New Jersey, Westwood Avenue. Tell them I sent you. They will take care of you. They do a great job taking care of your car. They've done a great job for our car, my daughter's car, all of that. So go see Anita Discount Tire. Johnny, Ari, the whole mishpucha there. See them, and they'll take care of you. Again, Rivervale, New Jersey, Westwood Avenue, Anita Discount Tire. And, of course, our friends at Manscaped. Remember, if you're looking for that illusion of extra inches, there's only one way to go, and that's Manscaped. Check it out, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Can't say enough. The underwear, the body wash, everything, the hair, the shampoo. Check out my favorite thing, Manscaped. Absolutely love it. All right, before we go, got to talk about the baseball team. And it's unfortunate what happened to Senga yesterday. I heard his hamstring, went on the IL as the Mets won their sixth straight game, hung on at the end, and beat the Nationals 4-3, sweeping that series. The Mets are an unconscious 27-7 at home. Think about that. 27-7 at home. They're 21 games over 500. They're 45-24. You're a Met fan, and I understand the injury to Senga. You're giddy. And it looks like that Manaea's coming back. Frankie Montas is going to be here, even though I don't think Montas is any good. But, considering the pitching lab that the Mets have created now with David Stearns and Jeremy Hefner, I mean, you got to believe even Montas is going to be good. So, not that concerned about the Senga injury. Hopefully it's only a short stint on the IL, and he'll be back ready to go. But one thing about yesterday's game, the Mets are up 4-0, right? Going to the top of the ninth inning, got a 4-0 lead in the game, right? And I know it's a non-safe situation. Why does Mendoza, and I love Mendoza, we all know that, we love him. Why does Mendoza just put Diaz in the game right now? Who cares if it's a non-safe situation or not? He puts that absolute stiff Stanek in the game, and hopefully he'll be gone at some point. He puts that stiff Stanek in the game. He gets nobody out. He turns a 4-0 cakewalk into, you hold it on by your fingernails, and Diaz comes in. They wind up scoring 3 runs, but Diaz eventually closes it out for his 15th save of the year, and the Mets win 4-3. They hang on to win 4-3. To me, that's on Mendoza. Why would you put – I understand it's not a safe situation, but sometimes does it really matter? And it's not like Diaz has been overused because he hasn't. They're not pitching him in back-to-back games. Rarely ever do they. I mean, what? So what? Start the inning with him. But they hung on to win anyway. I didn't like that move at all. I really didn't. But the Mets are unconscious. And really, now you got Nimmo hitting. Jeff McNeil's red hot. Soto's finally looks like he's off the snide. The one thing about Soto, though, he's got to start hustling. He doesn't hustle. I mean, as good as he is, he's a terrible outfielder too. But, okay, we know that. But the one thing that he can do is hustle. Now, he's starting to hit like he should, but can you hustle? There was that play the other day when they won that game against Washington, when they came back and scored the 2 runs to tie it in the bottom of the 8th inning and eventually won it in the extra innings. When he hit that base hit to right field with a runner on, the right fielder dives for the ball. It gets behind him. Soto should have been on third, but he wasn't hustling out of the box, so he only got a double. Now, it didn't matter anyway because Alonso got the hit to tie the game after that, and they wound up winning in extra innings. But Soto's got to hustle more than he does. I mean, come on. But right now, if you're a Met fan, you just sit there. You got a smile on your face. And I've heard people say, well, they got to make a deal. What trade? This team needs to make a trade? What trade do they need to make? There's no trades needed to be made here. You got Minaya coming in. You got Montas coming in. What trade are we making? We're loaded. We got a loaded team. And I understand the bottom of the order could be a little better, right? It could be. Vientos is on the IL right now. He hasn't been great, right? Beatty's come back to earth. Alvarez stinks. He stinks. Alvarez is terrible. I've said this before. Luis Torrens is better. He really is. But this team is loaded. And I think eventually Ronnie Mauricio is going to become a big-time player for them. We'll see how it all plays out. But I wouldn't make any trades with this team. None. The pitching has been great. How great is David Peterson? Pitches that complete game shutout the other day. Complete game shutout. I mean, that's gotten the way of the dinosaur, the complete game shutout. David Peterson has become one of the top pitchers in baseball, let's be honest. And did anybody ever see that happening 3 years ago? And again, I credit Stearns and Hefner for turning him into, you want to tell me Senga's the ace of this team? To me, it's Peterson. Peterson's giving you 7+ innings every time out. I mean, he's become a horse, Peterson. He really has. And the starting pitching's been tremendous, right? Even Griffin Canning got beat up a little bit the last time out. I don't have a lot of confidence in him, but it's amazing what he's been even able to do. Even Tyler McGill, although he always seems to fade in the 5th inning, but they've gotten more out of him than you could ever imagine. How good has Clay Holmes been, right? Guy was never a starter. Look what he's doing now. So I'm thrilled. The bullpen outside of Stanek has really been good. Even this guy Castillo, the lefty they got now, he's been good. He came in yesterday, got the job done again after Senga went out of the game. Barbizon's been good. Go right on down the line with these guys, right? Kranick's been good. Reed Garrett's been outstanding. Obviously, Diaz is, if he's not the best closer in the game, he's in the conversation. There's no question about it. You love the manager. This team's on its way to a 100+ win season. And, they're going to win this division. I think they're going to win it going away. Now, they got a tough few games coming up. They got to play 3 with the red-hot Tampa Bay Rays at Citi Field starting tonight. Clay Holmes pitching tonight. And then next week, they play a couple of division rivals. They go to Philly for 3, and then they go to they go to Atlanta first for 3, and then they go to Philly for 3. They haven't even played the Braves yet. We're about 13 games behind them at this point in the season. And wouldn't it be great to go down there and just, wipe them out, just finish them off in early June? That would be good. But look, the only thing you can do now, you can't win the World Series in June. All you can do as a Met fan is sit back and enjoy what's going on. 45-24, 21 games over 500. Yeah, the Senga injury is a hit, but I'm confident that we'll overcome this too. So we'll see where we go from here. But if you're a Met fan, you got to be thrilled. Look, we know they're good. Are they good enough? And we're not going to find that out until we get to October. One thing that is paramount is you want to win the division. You don't want to be involved in that 2 out of 3 game crapshoot that they were involved in last year when they wound up winning, beating the Brewers with the big home run by Pete Alonso of Devin Williams. So, you don't want to get to that point. You don't want that to happen again. You want to win the division and, avoid that 2 out of 3 game series. So we'll see what happens. Great time to be a Met fan. Let's go Mets. 3-game series opening tonight against Tampa City again with Clay Holmes on the mound. Everybody, have a great weekend. Father's Day weekend. Enjoy Father's Day. The U.S. Open going. J.J. Spawn, the leader right now as we go into the second round at Oakmont in Pennsylvania. How about Brooks Koepka? Watch out for him. He's only 2 shots back. John Rahm only 3 shots back. Spieth's 3 shots back. DeChambeau and Scheffler are +3, but Spawn is only -4. So, you're probably the cut's going to probably be somewhere around +5, +6 in that area. So we'll see, maybe even more than that. So we'll see what happens today in day 2 of the U.S. Open. Looking forward to that. But everybody, happy Father's Day. It's our day, fathers, okay? The other 364 go to the women. So this is our day. Do what you want this day, okay? Don't have the family saying, hey, we're going to have this. You're not even going to be able to have a barbecue because the weather's going to stink. It's only going to be, of course, why would it be nice out? It's not going to rain, but it's going to be 68 degrees. It's not exactly going to be 85 out where you're going to be able to hit the pool and barbecue and all of that. But do what the hell you want to do, okay? I'm probably not going to play golf now. I'm probably just going to sit home and watch the U.S. Open because we're going to play again today. And we played the last couple of days, my wife and I. But do what you want to do, all right? Don't tell them, well, we're having a party for you. Really? Well, you have the party. I'm not going to be there. That's good. Go have the party for me. I'm going to be doing this, all right? Mm-hmm. So happy Father's Day, everybody, and enjoy the weekend. Check me out tomorrow, 5 a.m. What a disaster that is. 5 a.m. for my show on WFAN. Should be a rip-roarer. Probably not, but, we'll be there from 5 to 9. So check us out tomorrow. Everybody have a great weekend. God bless America because God knows we need it with all the bullshit that's going on in this country right now and as well as around the world. You know what I'm talking about. Don't want to get into all of it at this point. So God bless America. All the love to everybody. And again, check me out tomorrow at 5 a.m. on The Fan.